Hi guys, and welcome to another batch of mini reviews. So if you don't know, this is a series where I review 7 films in the time that it would normally take me to review just one. The more observant among you may have noticed that it was only a couple of weeks ago that I did another mini reviews video. The reason why I've managed to get another one out so quickly is because I've been on an absolute film watching binge over the last fortnight or so. And the reason for that is because me and my wife agreed to look after this family's dog while the family went on holiday, but it was a very nervy sort of dog. It couldn't really come around to our house and be amongst our pets and kids, etc. We had to go to it. We had to go around to their house and sit with this dog. So we ended up doing rotating shifts, kind of, and don't worry, we got very well paid for this whole experience. We certainly weren't going to go through this whole hassle for free. But any time that I was around at this house, I would just sit there and go on their subscription services and just watch film after film after film. It was a bit like a film watching retreat for me. I ended up watching something like 8 films in the space of 4 days at one point. And there's something about watching horror in particular around at somebody else's house when you're on your own. It just adds a little bit of extra edge to the atmosphere compared to watching films in your own place, surrounded by all your creature comforts. So it was a really nice experience, actually. I really liked it. Now, in terms of how I'm going to go about this video, I'm going to take these in the exact order in which I watched them. And as we're going along, we will have a film of the week and a stinker of the week. But we will begin with this one. First up, we have The Equalizer 3. So this is the first of 2 movies today that aren't strictly horror. Well, they're not. No, strictly about it. But this is a really cool franchise. I'd say the closest thing to it is Taken with Liam Neeson. But whereas the Taken series starts out really strong with the original film, and then it's just a gradual decline with 2 and 3. They just get worse and worse. With The Equalizer, there's really good consistency from film to film. All 3 of these are strong. I've enjoyed all of them, and I honestly couldn't tell you which one is the best in the trilogy. So in this one, The Equalizer, aka McCall, he's in Italy, and he ends up helping some locals take down this local mafia crime family. It's nothing that you won't have seen before, but it's very competently done. The action when it happens is really satisfying. In my opinion, that there could have been a little bit more of it in this film, but not to worry. Now, I've heard that there is going to be a 4 and 5 in this series to round things out, but it's been a while since I heard any news, so I don't know if they're still happening. And Denzel Washington is getting a little bit long in the tooth at this point, but I really like this series. If you're just looking for an action thriller with an indestructible hero, you could do a lot worse than checking out these 3 movies. But in terms of this one, number 3, I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. This is a strong start to today's proceedings. Next up, we have Bird Box. So this is a film that I'd been sort of tempted to check out for years, but just never gotten around to it. It was sort of revealing to me, actually, that it came out in 2018, so I'd been dragging my heels for 7 years before I finally put it on. It's sort of like an alternative to A Quiet Place. Even if you haven't seen this, you may have seen the poster where Sandra Bullock is in a rowing boat with 2 kids, and they're all wearing blindfolds. I looked at this image from time to time for years and thought to myself, why are they wearing those? Why is it that they can't see out? I don't get it. What's going on? I finally got my answer when I put the film on. So it turns out that these creatures have come down from space, I guess. And if you glare in their general direction, you will catch this disease that will turn you into a murderous zombie. And once you've turned, that's it. You're done. You're basically dead. So those are the stakes, and that's why people are running around in this movie with their eyes covered by one means or another. You can look around when you're indoors, just not outdoors. That's the rules of the game, seemingly. But it's a good concept. It's like nothing I've ever seen before, really. A Quiet Place would be the closest thing, but that's a very different type of creature. So we end up here with a group of people trapped in a townhouse, and they don't really know each other, but they've got to try and figure out what they're going to do next, how they're going to survive in this new world. But of course, this being a horror movie, deaths will happen, their numbers will thin as we go through the story. I got a lot out of this film. I did really enjoy it, but there is one fatal flaw to the whole thing, and that is the fact that we have these two timelines. So we don't just have the main storyline. We also have this other timeline that's like 5 years into the future, and we keep flicking between the two. But the trouble is, the fact that the second timeline exists just gives away who lives and who dies from the main timeline that we're meant to be enjoying, if you see what I mean. I don't understand why this movie couldn't have just been one long chronological flow. I think it would have been better that way, and then the movie could have preserved a lot of its tension. But I still liked it. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5. I still recommend it, but if it wasn't for the timeline thing, I might have gone to 4 out of 5. And once I start giving out that type of score, then we're in the excellent territory. But still, even after watching this as it is, I knew that I wanted to press on immediately with the sequel. I was curious about what they would do with that. I didn't watch Bird Box Barcelona immediately after the first one. So the way it worked out was the original film was my last of one particular afternoon, and then I went back the following day for another dog sit session in the morning, and Bird Box 2 was my first film of that new session. So I didn't get the Bird Box double bill experience, for better or worse, but it could have ended up like that. This second one is kind of more of the same, but it takes place in a different city, Barcelona, obviously. The first one happens in an American city, although I'm not sure that they say which one. This is a completely different cast of characters. They clearly couldn't afford to get Sandra Bullock again. So we have this whole new scenario that's sprung up, although it feels very similar to the first one. This sequel has one big glaring flaw, just like the first film did. It just so happens that it's a different flaw this time. So the main character, he is so annoying. Now, it's not entirely his fault, for reasons that you'll find out when you watch the movie, but I just couldn't stand this guy. I spent a lot of my time watching this just hoping that somebody would kill him, and maybe somebody else would pick up the reins as the main character, because honestly, he's just so frustrating throughout this. I really didn't like him. But if you can ignore that, it's another decent Bird Box experience. We even end up with this death-defying set of scenes up on a cable car system, and then there's a little bit of mythology reveal just before the end. Although the film does shy away from giving away too much about the creatures. The temptation for a sequel is always to sort of, give us a lot more about who they are and what they're about. A little bit like in Aliens, how you see the Queen second time around with the egg sacs and stuff like that. You reveal more about who they are. Bird Box Barcelona doesn't really do that, but I don't think I needed more about the creature at this stage of the game, especially watching the first two films quite close together. Although whether we're ever going to get a third one, I don't know. I'm going to give this one 3 out of 5, just half a point less than the first one. I do think it's the inferior product, but it's still worth watching. And if you haven't seen either of them, then by all means, watch them both on the same night. I think you'll get a very solid 3.5 hours of horror. Next up, we have Brick, and this is our film of the week. This is a German film. In fact, I think this one and the next one I'm going to be talking about, both German. This is also one of those films that I can't really talk to you about the plot beyond like the first 5 minutes, because you should go on this journey of discovery entirely by yourself. I shouldn't really be saying anything really about what happens here, but I will give you a little slither just to get you interested. So we start off in an apartment block with a couple, and they wake up one day, they have this argument, and the woman tries to storm out, but when she opens the door, she sees that there's like a brick wall covering the doorway. It suddenly seems to have sprung up overnight, and it's not your typical sort of red brick that you could just bash in with a sledgehammer. It's like a dark brick. It looks really, really tough to get through. They check the windows, and again, the brick walls are covering those as well, so they're completely encased somehow in their own apartment, and they don't know why this is happening or how it happened. About 5 minutes after this discovery, it occurred to me that this is probably where the title came from. I mean, brick wall. But like I said, I can't really take the plot any further. You should absolutely discover all the eventual reveals and answers and things that happen entirely for yourself. The worry with films like this is that they do have the potential to get a bit static. It crossed my mind that maybe this is just going to be like 90 minutes of a couple arguing in an apartment, and maybe at the end something will happen. They'll either get out last minute or they'll die or whatever, but this is not like that. The plot keeps moving forwards. We don't spend the entire time in the apartment, I'll say that much. It's really intriguing all the way through, and there's so many interesting things that happen along the way, and you even get a really satisfying ending with this film. I thought, whoa, that's actually really cool how this film has ended. It crossed my mind as well that the potential for a sequel, but no point discussing that today. But I'm going to give this 4.5 out of 5. It scores most of its points because it's just so original. It reminded me a little bit of Cube, I guess. That film where characters wake up and they're in, like, oh, trapped in a cubed room. What's going to happen now? Why are they here? What are they going to do? I mean, this is very different from Cube, but this was really good. Genuinely really enjoyed this, and I would say it's the best film in this video. So we go straight from the film of the week to the stinker of the week with Prey. This is not to be confused with the Predator version of Prey. In fact, Prey is such a nondescript title. It may have been used like several times over the years with different movies. And I know that there are at least 2 video games called Prey that have nothing to do with this or Predator. So there you go. I don't think it's a great idea to give low-budget movies such a really forgettable title. I actually struggled to remember what the title of this film was when it came to sitting down and planning my review, if you see what I mean. I was literally there for ages, like, oh, what was that film about the 4 guys in the forest being chased by a sniper? I can't remember what it's called. It was bugging me like hell. I had to like type in German sniper forest campers kind of, and eventually I got the title, but it took a while. So there you go. I've given you the plot. It's not particularly original. About halfway through this, I realised that I would probably enjoy it more if I just if I switched it to the German language with the English subtitles, because the English language, the dubbing is not really aligned very well. And if this had occurred to me during Brick, another German film, maybe I would have enjoyed that one even more. But you live and you learn. I should know these things by now. I've watched enough foreign language films, but whatever. This is not a rank bad film, okay? It just has a lot of irritating things about it. The characters will generally get on your nerves. So when people get into a horror situation like this, in the woods being chased by a sniper, don't act like whiny brats. Don't turn on each other. Work together. Be calm, collected. That's what I want to see. Not enough of that happens in this movie. And there's also the thing of the sniper just finding the characters so easily, even though this is like a massive forest. If it was real life, if I managed to escape from the initial skirmish, I'd be gone. That sniper would not see me again, ever. I'd be out of there. He wouldn't find me. Guarantee it. But in this film, the sniper just magically finds them no matter where they go. But they don't help themselves. Like, sometimes they'll run away from the sniper. They'll be like sprinting through the trees, and then they'll just stop and have a conference. They'll all huddle round and be like, oh, God, this is terrible. I can't believe we're in this situation. I want to get back to my girl, man. What are we going to do? And I'm like, well, the first thing you could do is keep running, not like stop barely 2 minutes after you've been running away from the sniper. That would help, because if you've only been running a couple of minutes, he might be able to find you. If you run for 2 hours, you get the drift. 2 out of 5. Next up, we have Rebel Ridge. So this is our second film today, which is not horror. So I think what happened was, after Prey, I just needed a little bit of a break from horror. I was suffering a bit of horror fatigue. I just needed to watch something different. So I found this very randomly. It's a cross between Copland and Rambo, I'd say. So it's about this returning vet. He's a black character, and he ends up in this very rural town in America, but the local cops do him a big disservice. And so our main guy he realizes that they're all corrupt, or most of them are. So he starts trying to get to the bottom of this and, you know, reveal to the wider world, I guess, what exactly is going on in this small town. But once the corrupt cops realize what he's doing behind their backs, then they start trying to kill this guy or frame him. They sort of chop and change their mind throughout the film about how they're going to deal with him. This is a long watch. It's like 2.5 hours. My mind did drift a little bit at times. There are moments where the main character refuses to kill the corrupt cops, which is frustrating. He only really wounds them or captures them. He's never really out like blowing them away like I'd normally like to see in a thriller like this, which is a little bit frustrating. So there is that. I guess ultimately the film just wasn't for me, although I can still recognise the quality of it. Like if you go online and look up reviews of Rebel Ridge, I mean, it's bordering on critical acclaim. I think it's like 90% plus on Rotten Tomatoes, that kind of thing, and possibly it's had award nominations. I'm not sure, but it was all right, just not for me, I suppose, at the end of the day. So 3 out of 5. I think it's just not. It's just not a film that's in my normal jurisdiction, shall we say. Finally today we have Becky, and what an awesome way to finish, because I absolutely loved this movie. In fact, it was very close to winning Film of the Week. It was between this and Brick, so it was a battle of the bees, Becky and Brick, but ultimately I went for the slightly more original film. Becky is about a family who go and stay at this woodland cottage, but a group of escaped convicts turn up and take over the house. They hold the family hostage. But Becky is not in the house at the time that this happens, but she realises what's going on. But instead of running off for the police, she decides to hang around and take down the villains by herself, even though she's like only 12 or 13. I love this character, Becky. She's so cool and brilliantly played by Lulu Wilson. I think the actress's name is. Now, the worry about a film like this is that it'll just end up like horror Home Alone, really cheesy, you know, like the child killing an adult in a stupid way. Maybe they make them trip on marbles and then they'll kill them, and then they'll come out with like a crap one-liner. And if that had happened in this film, I would have been like, no, not having that. But it's not like that at all. This is brutal and violent, and the script makes it feel like it would be believable that Becky could kill these guys in this way. So still a genuinely adult film, even though the hero is like a 12 or a 13-year-old. And I had a great time. Honestly, this was really good. I'm going to give this 4 out of 5. It almost got more. And I can guarantee it that when the next mini reviews roll around, the sequel, Wrath of Becky, will be the first film that I do for that video. But we've reached the end for today. So just to recap, Brick is the film of the week, but also see Becky, definitely. And you know what? Even the worst film today, The Stinker, Prey, if you want to watch that, I mean, it's not completely bad, you know. All of these films today are worth a watch, in my opinion. So there we go. Thank you for joining me. Do follow me on X if you'd like to. My name is the same on there as it is here. And beyond that, all that's left for me to say is bye for now.